You want to see a cool party trick? Okay, turn up the music a little bit. Is this how I do it? Okay. Oh, I lost it. Oh no. Let's see my party trick. Is it going to work? I'm not an operator, folks, so I think I could just change the track on Sirius XM. I think I could just click away.
Oh. CBC Radio 3.
And you know what? We're going to skip that song. We're going to load that one up. We're going to load this one up. We're going to play that one right away. It's kind of terrifying to do that. And I was doing that in my bedroom, and I was like as a kid, that was like a dream of mine to have to do that. So now I get to do it like at this scale, and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Okay, so I'm going to close this off. So that signal is getting here through IP. I'm behind a VPN, and I'm going to show you how it gets here at scale. So you can kill the music, I think. This is a radio program, so it falls under two divisions of ours, CBC Listen and CBC Music. I work downtown at the Toronto office, and my title is Senior Systems Designer and Project Leader. But I'm a huge nerd, so I'm still chair of the Audio Engineering Society's grounding and EMC practices, so I'm super into grounding. I'm into that. I'm also vice chair of the working group on audio connectors, so if you like XLRs, it's because of that working group that I vice chair. And I also preserve things. So this was a museum piece I added to CBC. This is my location. This is my desk at work. You can see, not too many people are showing up to work, but you got stuff to build. You gotta do stuff. I'm kind of at the back corner there. We got this pretty cool building. It's right across the street from our antenna. I think this is a transmission show, so I figured I'd talk a little bit about our antenna. It's this thing right across the street. It's kind of like a high school math problem. Okay, so the hypotenuse is 2,200 feet. Guess the angle of the STL to the. So it's like the highest pointing STL. It's like the angle is like this because we're directly underneath the balloon, as I was told, and we got 9,800 watts ERP. What I don't even know. I mean, it's in the CN Tower is music, and that's 38 kilowatts ERP. I even did the formula. It doesn't matter. It's transmission stuff. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. We're going to skip that. But there's transmitters for everyone. So please visit CBC Transmission. This is my presentation is brought to you by CBC Transmission. So thank you very much, everyone. You should applaud them. Look what they have to deal with. This is, just in Ontario alone, it's 47 transmitter sites. It's just majestic. It's just absolutely majestic what is out there. These, this is the employee type chart for CBC, as I like to say. So each one of those is a different department. I was dealing with some of the wireless microphones. That was kind of the spectrum. Like everybody there is on the spectrum. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about VLF. You laugh, but you're talking about hiring. You got to think about the neurodivergence in this world. It's very important. So CBC works like this. They give you a file, and it says attention baseband group. And you give a K number and a couple little pictures in there. They're like, okay, you got to replace this server. Okay, you got this application, you got to replace this application. So that's the technology and infrastructures that we deal with. I'm like, okay, that sounds simple. Okay, so, there's a little bit of music selection, some studio stuff, and it presents it everywhere. But really what it's about is metadata. It's really about metadata. This is our presentation center here in Toronto. A lot of stations come out of here. Don't know the exact number, but lots of audio. And everything is delayed, right? So we actually start with a delayed feed. You look at the clocks, it's 12 o'clock there and it's 7 o'clock there. So it's got to feed all those transmitters. Newfoundland is first, Atlantic. Goes to the eastern, the central, where I'm from, Saskatchewan. Top row, CBC Music, or CBC Radio 1. Bottom row, CBC Music. So, and then we have some Sirius stations and a bunch of utilities that we deal with. And behind this is this big, huge engine that routes tons and tons and tons of audio. So that sound you were hearing was going through this. And it's big. It's not new. It's this like 1996, I think this was commissioned. It's like 20 years old. But it's a lot of MADI. It's a lot of AS3. These are broadcast processors. Like it's majestic. This is standard control that's in the master control, and up in the top left corner is the piece of software that they said you should replace. I was like, okay, sure, all right, let's go for it, let's do it. And CBC Radio 2, they delay the signal. It starts out in the east and gets delayed and delayed and delayed, so it time shifts. And the driving principle of CBC Music is to expose new tracks by Canadian artists everywhere, in an environment which is entertaining, relevant, and familiar. And that's Canada. That's all of Canada. But we also serve on the website. So there's part of the transmission group. Their mandate is also to deal with the website. And there's 4 major principles that we deal with when it comes to this project. And it's very much like curation of the collection. And the collection it's big. Context of how to make shows that work with Canadians, how to discover new artists, share new artist presentations, and of course, Canadian first. That's always the goal. So we have live stream radio. You can go to the website. If you can't reach a transmitter, the transmitter comes to you nowadays. That's kind of how it works. The clock is wrong sometimes, so just don't call in. We know it's wrong on the internet because of encoders. You smart folks, you know all that. So we deal with a lot of different genres on the website. We have different, we have our own kind of store kind of thing, and we service underserved genres, and there's a lot of commercial radio stations that wouldn't touch some of the music and some of the program that we do, and that's kind of what makes this gig super duper exciting, because there's stuff that you would hear on CBC that you would not hear anywhere else, and it's also available through our website and through our applications and through our Listen app and through a whole bunch of things. And this software fed all of this. This is a peripheral to the software that I was replacing. Diversity. We time shift this. I was on the way here listening to the CN Tower. I was listening to Tempo with Julie Nasrallah. She's our opera diva. When we went work from home, she had to have a special microphone. I'm like, we saw that coming. So we got her the nicest AKG 414 we could get her. And we took care of those people as they went home. All these people during the pandemic, they all went home. We started working with them. And let me tell you, Google Drive kind of saved our bum, because all these people, they would submit their files through Google Drive. And that's really how it ended up happening. And some of this is live. Some of this is in studio. Some of this is happening right now. And some of it isn't. It's a lot of pre-programmed package stuff, and after it gets played, it becomes part of a log and part of a collection. And that side of things is majestic as well, because that technology and infrastructure that's behind that is just vast, very, very vast. And for us to discover, the music you want to hear it's mixed with familiar touchstones. So all those playlists are hand curated by our programmers. I think we've got something like 30 music connoisseurs that are on staff that celebrate Canadian music. It's very, very important for them. So we put out a CBC purchasing. It's very hard. It's thorough. And for reasons, right? We wanted to create a show playlist. We wanted to take files from our VML and transfer them, and we wanted to make a show that was a piece of metadata more than it was a piece of audio, and pass it off to various different systems. So, you do an analysis and you go, live radio is different than in-studio radio, and pre-recorded radio is different than other pre-recorded radio, and some files move from systems to systems, and some files don't move from other systems to other systems. So it's kind of hit or miss. But it really all starts with, we have an in-house virtual music library. Oh, let's see if I can see this. Let's see if this YouTube video works. I have a little tour. Let's see. This is me in the basement at the CBC Montreal before they closed it down. This is their record collection. I don't think you'll have audio. Don't worry, there's no audio for it. It just keeps going and going and going. But, that's all digitized. A lot of this is French-Canadian records that there was only one of, right? So that is all preserved. That's part of the library mandate is to preserve that type of information. So it's very important for us to have that collection. And it's huge. How did I describe it? If you had 300 TVs playing for 4 years straight, you'd listen to half of it. So it's big, and this is undergoing renovation. So this is in-house software. But to create this new context, we chose a piece of software called G Selector, and what we did was we imported our library into it, and we use it to form the rules of what we push to these various playlists and these various these various producers. And to get that Zeta going through, we have multiple stations that collate and collect the information differently. So, country is one collection, and classical is another collection, and night stream is another collection. And these genres have to be containerized in order to... It becomes chaotic if they're not containerized, and those who maintain collections, you understand that. We had to create, custom attributes, CBC attributes, and we had to use the software kind of off the shelf as best as we could. And what we ended up doing was, utilizing, multi-track editors, the publish modules, the sequence editors, etc., to build these shows and these presentations. And it's on a laptop everywhere. It doesn't have to be a studio. It was just everybody got a laptop and a screen, and that was pretty much it. But you can also do Zeta to Go, which was a web service of ours. So the work from anywhere, this is just like a dream thing. Had this been with us at the pandemic, at the forefront, we wouldn't have had to build a temporary system on the go. So with this, we can do voice tracking and sequence editing and clip chopping and logging through a web browser. But there was old legacy information. This information just didn't come from nowhere. We had to parse the information in order to actually see, where it came from, how it came from, what was good, what was bad, how did we have to interchange some, what did we need to build, how did middleware, how did we have to, modify the files coming in to push it to all of these other peripherals. And the analysis just kept growing and growing, and you had to align on these data points, and you had to align at what was presented and what was kept from the old system. So we have our maintenance folks, they're software engineers, they're computer science engineers. That's what they do. That's maintenance now. It's somebody that's he has to maintain a piece of software because everything relies on those pieces of software that they build in-house to move files from place to place. And a show is just a metadata, piece of file. It's this is an event. It happens at this time. This is a track. It happens at this time. That's really all it is. Once you learn that, underneath the cover of some of these things, it's just Excel spreadsheets, it kind of loses a bit of its magic. But when it flows from place to place and one piece of software does a transform on it and one piece of software does a modification to it or one piece of software uses a part of it, that's where it gets very, very, very interesting. We had to align with other pieces of software, right? Because CBC Music is just one component of our radio. I don't know what the ratio of music to Radio 1 is, but we conform to what Radio 1 does. So Radio 1 contributes with iNews. They use Avid product for their logging and stuff. And then that gets disseminated to, I think this is the Center Stage piece of software that we use to do that. So, curation. This is Canada's music collection. We're very privileged. It's an honor to be able to do that and get into that. And we had to import it in huge bulk and drop it places and then pick it up and have APIs that queried the software. It's not just 2 boxes sitting in a rack. It's multiple APIs that are connected to this thing. Just because there's no wire going to it doesn't mean there isn't things connected to it. It's kind of a hard thing for some people to grasp. And the old hardware, well, it had to go and it had to be set and it was big to replace the hardware in the back end. And because CBC, we're built for war. I think that's the coolest part about CBC is you play this scenario, if one building goes down, and we don't play the one line goes down, it's if the whole building goes down, can we bring it back up? It's yeah, we can totally bring it back up because we build systems that way. And we did we're working on cost savings and energy savings of everything. You think about hundreds of computers on at the same time, it adds up hugely. So we distribute, we share, stuff goes in Toronto, stuff goes in Montreal. We have a cloud, we have our own cloud. Half of it's in Toronto, half of it's in Montreal. We have distributed storage. There's die for scale. That's a storage unit of cold storage of stuff. So we're just like a drop in the video bucket in terms of storage and compute. So we do pretty good. And then you got to play it out. It's got to be got to be physicalized. Is that the word? Yeah. You gotta make the audio real at some point. So we had to design players on how to do this, and we wanted baseband. We wanted AES-3. We also wanted AES-67. We also wanted 2110-7. We wanted redundancy. We had to feed the existing. So, back to my thinking I'm just going to replace 2 servers. Well, then it gets more complicated because, built for war, you want to back up Toronto, you want to back up English services, you want to back up French services. Well, I wasn't too wrong. It is just 2 servers in a rack, but behind it, there's just hundreds and hundreds of things connected to make those 2 servers play audio out of it, and that's what we heard. But what we heard, that audio at the beginning, goes through 50 different drawings. It goes through DAs and distribution points and buffers. Then it goes into encoders, and then it goes into processors. And this is the bureaucracy that I have to deal with, all this paperwork. But it's also a luxury I get because my colleagues, I'm looking at them kind of, they all maintain the same type of quality of documentation. And that's the beauty of the CBC, is you can go home and work from home and collaborate with people remotely to build this stuff. I built this in my garage during COVID. So while we were building this was all done from my garage, which is kind of fun. Back to the green, I hate KVMs. KVMs, they just take up so much power. So we came up with this little compute stick, and you put a little virtual sound card on it with a piece of software to record, and for 20 watts, you can record 64 channels of audio on a NAS. So we started thinking, but how can we eliminate and save, as much energy as we could in this and leave as little footprint as we could. When you had the big monitors and control room and presentation, it's just literally a little tiny compute stick that's playing out, what's happening on the monitor. And we did pay attention huge amounts, oh my gosh, to loudness. We did loudness analysis on everything. The software does DBFS, DBLUFS, logging. It does all of that type of stuff. And we ultimately decided on, learning how to best normalize things before they hit the broadcast compressors. So we did tests where we turned it on, shut it off, turned it on, shut it off, and ran it for days and days and days. So we have just hundreds of hours of clips of loudness being monitored through these super tiny, little tiny compute systems. And instead of putting a KVM and a monitor and a rack and all that jazz. So, in the end, it's not that hard. It's a couple pieces of middleware. You have a couple playout servers. You have a couple backup servers. You have other pieces of software fitting it. You have other applications that tie into iNews and drop off, real-time metadata. And then the next step is to connect it to our catalog of online music and how the online music can actually benefit from. It's a very majestic system when it comes down to it, and there's so much behind it, and there's way more that I could talk about. So I think that I got 11 minutes here. Oh, geez, did I do 6? That was 60 slides. Did I go fast? That was 60 slides. It was majestic. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, everyone.